And welcome back, guys. As advertised, as promised, we are now joined by actor Gavin Mitchell. You'll know him as Boaby, or as the Scottish say, Boaby.
Boaby.
Boaby. I don't know what it is about the Scottish people that like to put A's and L's where they don't really belong, but that's all right.
Hey.
Joining us right now, Gavin Mitchell. Gavin, how are you, man?
How the devil are you? I'm fantastic.
Well, I don't know if there's an American around, except for myself, that actually is as excited as I'm guessing the cast members are to see you guys getting back on the stage.
Every single day, you get in a cab or wherever you go, it's, oh, come on, guys, when's it happening? When he's getting back together? Come on,
Yeah.
And that happens at least once a day. Or, I've had, not even here, I've had bizarre things. Earlier this year, I was in Barbados with the show I did, Casablanca, and I'm standing in a beach bar going, wow, this is paradise, it's incredible, and I'll try a coconut daiquiri, please. And just as this woman's making my drink, I hear, Boaby! What? What are you doing here? Should you know be the other side of the bar? I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Barbados. So, and I've had, in the Gatwick Express, I remember a wee guy kept staring at me, and he was very prim and proper, the way he was dressed, and a wee clipped moustache. And he came over to me and said, Booby? Excuse me? You are Booby? From Steel Game? Yes, in French. My wife is Scottish. I learned my English from Steel Game. And then proceeded to say, 2 pints, you prick.
When this was first a stage show, before it got into Chewing the Fat and before it became its own deal with Still Game, did they have all those sets on stage? Did they have like a...
Oh, gosh, no, because originally, how it happened originally was Ford Gregg and I used to do a show in '96 called Pulp Video. And out of boredom, we were going a bit crazy between sketches sitting around, and I'm not sure who started it. There were Ford, I would have thought. And we started talking like old men and saying really inappropriate things. And it just kept us going. We just couldn't stop it. We'd stay on these voices for ages. So then Ford and Greg wrote 2 sketches, and we filmed those. And so it was always just about 3 old men. They then wrote the stage play, and I couldn't do the stage play, unfortunately. I was doing a children's television series at the time. And so that's when Paul Riley came in, and Paul took over as Winston, and the rest was history, really. I mean, it was interesting. The play went down very well, and it travelled the world and won awards. But then trying to get it on television took quite a while, because people were going, well, no, you need real old men. So, at times they were suggesting people like Richard Wilson, older kind of famous comedy actors and things, but the boys stuck to their guns and like, no, the whole point about this is us that play the parts. But no, it was just a tiny, tiny little show with the 3 of them in it.
See, I didn't know that you were part of the original concept behind all of this. This is all new information. My apparently my due diligence is lacking. Well, just in those first sketches, and then as I said, I was meant to do the play and couldn't, and then the boys kindly asked me back and I became Boaby. It was actually another actor that they'd done a pilot, and it was another actor completely who played the part, and he couldn't do the series. He was doing another play. He was doing another Welsh play at the time. And so I was brought in, and that was it, really. And forevermore I became Boaby and my mullet. So, yeah. Yeah, the mullet is legendary, by the way. I love the mullet.
It was very funny, because I literally just finished another sitcom at the time, and I had a shaved head for it. And we thought it was a bit much and a bit severe and wanted to look a wee bit different. And so I went up to see the makeup girl, and the mullet was her idea.
And she said, a mullet. And I thought, what? A mullet? Are you kidding? In this day and age? Although, funnily enough, the character is kind of, well, for me, the way I play it is kind of based on two barmen that I knew in Glasgow very well, who I just thought were the greatest barmen in Glasgow. And one of them did have a mullet. But as soon as she put it in my head, and I looked at myself, I thought, that's brilliant, actually. I really like it. It kind of works. It just kind of puts them in another time. So, yeah. Bizarre. Even my own brother, who lives down south, he'd say to me as well, he's like, have you done with your hair? No. and other people, I'd walk into a bar or whatever, and they're like, my God, have you had your hair cut off? Like, no, it's a wig. You don't think I'd walk about my hair like that? Although at one point there was talk of them, the comedy unit did ask if I would mind growing it. I think it was to save money and to make it look more natural. But they asked in about, I don't know, the November, and we started filming in January, and they were like, how quickly do you think human hair grows? But also I just thought, no, I'm not walking about with a real live mullet for the rest of my days. So, yeah.
So, now, I wanted to ask you, after the original stage show, the TV version was introduced in Chewing the Fat, and I'm just trying to remember. Did you do that? Did you do the Chewing the Fat sketches?
I didn't do Chewing the Fat at all, no, because we kind of just had separate kind of paths after Pulp Video, and then the boys doing Still Game, the stage show. So they carried on. The Chewing the Fat was a radio series originally. So they were doing that. Meanwhile, kind of parallel to them doing the Chewing the Fat, I was doing a thing called Velvet Soup.
Oh yes, Stephen McNichol, a good friend of mine.
All right, yeah. Steve McNichol, Mark McDonald, and Julie Duncanson.
Yes.
Which also started as a radio series. And we did Velvet Soup, gosh, for about 7 years we were together, which is quite unheard of as well, quite a long time. And we did 2 national network series on Velvet Soup. So Scotland being Scotland a lot of the time as well, you know, there can be only one, there's got to be a winner. And they're like, no, the more comedy the better, you know. So sometimes they would try and set us up against each other, who's the best, or who's trying to steal the crown, or when actually nobody was. And also there were very different kind of shows, you know. So yeah, and then, yeah, Chewing the Fat became such a success. We were kind of more a cult thing, network, and we only did the 2 series, and then the boys moved on from that, because there'd been wee dribbles of the Jack and Victor through Chewing the Fat. Then they did the pilot, and then, as I said, it coincided with me doing another sitcom called Snoddy, and off the back of that, the guys asked me to come in and do Still Game. But I don't think any of us knew what was going to happen, you know. The number of times that people said, did you know it was going to be such a success? And I'm like, well, no, I mean, it's like putting lightning in a bottle, you know. Whenever you do a show, I think when we first did Pulp Video, I remember saying to the director, so what is our target audience? Who are we trying to reach here? And the classic thing you will get from directors a lot of times go, you know, anyone from 5 to 95. I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen, is it? That's pretty impossible. That just, yeah, that's kind of crazy. But for some reason, Still Game has, or does, it has such a bizarre, broad appeal to people. And even the language, even though it's a wee bit fruity, people allow their kids to see it. You know, families will watch it, from grandparents to children will watch it, and again and again and again. And it's, you know, I remember Ford and Greg said, when we were doing the very first episode, they said to me, what we hope for is we kind of want it to be like The Simpsons, where we create a community and we create these characters, and slowly but surely these characters will be introduced and you get to know them and you'll have your favourites, and then they'll become strong enough that they will be able to hold their own storylines. And I think they did that. You know, I mean, the first series, I don't know how successful it was. It was a real slow burner and kind of word of mouth. Second series, the same, and it was by the third that really started picking up. And then it just was huge, you know. But I think they achieved what they wanted to achieve. And then, as I say, what has happened now is just is a mark of that, really, that after 6 years, I mean, it's amazing that after 6 years anyway, that every day people keep asking for it. When will it come back? Please come back. And then when you do, this response is just, I don't think any of us saw this coming, I mean, because at the press conference, people were talking about, will there be more TV, or will you be doing anything before the shows? Who knows? I mean, it's one thing at a time, but...
We'll just have to ask Isa.
Yeah.
She'll tell us everything.
You know, Evan.
I'm actually quite good at keeping a secret. I love to know everybody's business. I love to find out. Everywhere I go, I like to talk to people, bus stops, shops, taxi drivers. I talk to everybody, and I want to know the whole life story before the journey ends, or I pay for my shopping, or whatever it is. I like to blather. But I think probably friends, a lot of my friends I've had all my life, and I think they would say that if they told me a secret, I wouldn't pass it on. But my husband's the best at keeping a secret in the world, so I did tell him, but he would never say anything. But yeah, no, I hope I wouldn't be a gossip. Being a malicious gossip is a terrible thing. I would hate to be that.
Yeah, I have friends of mine that are still like that.
Mac! There's my Mac away. Mac! There's a fox in the garden! Mac! That's enough of your nonsense. He's usually a quiet one. See, I warned the boys. I said, don't you come down here. They've been at a Halloween party and I've had about 1 million e-numbers. I said, now up to bed. And there's Mac. You've let me down, Mac. You've let the family down. Come here, you wee monkey. Right, well, I put him next door.
Now, what kind of a duck is that?
He's a wee Jack Russell, but he doesn't know he's a Jack Russell. He's really gentle and he's really quiet. Normally he never barks at all, but tragically there for the radio programme, a fox passed my window. He can't help himself but chase a fox.
Oh, that's great. You actually had a fox walk past your window and your dog went crazy.
All the time.
This is the first time I've ever had a fox sighting on air. This is weird. Now, how do you feel about playing in that big auditorium? As an actual stage actress, has done a lot of stage stuff. I'm guessing the bigger the better.
It is scary because I have done quite a lot of theatre, and I do theatre as my first love, definitely without question. Making telly shows is great fun. It's great fun with the people that you're working with, and it's a great experience. But you don't get people laughing. And Mark and I did a show together actually, and the laughter, it's like a roller coaster. It hits you in waves, and you've got to ride the wave before you can time coming back in for your next line. And I mean, there is nothing in this world I could imagine would beat that feeling. So we were playing to audiences of probably 1,400. Try 15,000.
Oh my goodness.
So I just think when that laughter hits you, it's just going to blow you away. The only thing is, and I do think technically, although supposedly the sound in the room is fantastic, but to time yourself to come back in at the right point with a line after a laugh, when there's so many people laughing, I think that will be quite challenging.
Now, when you guys are doing going through rehearsals and stuff, do you have like a laugh track that you play at really loud volumes to help you with the timing?
No, but what you would probably have is you usually have some people that will be invited to come and watch a comedy before you have a preview, and that gives you an indication, because sometimes as well, even at the preview, laughs come where you don't expect, so you've always got to keep a wee ear out to the audience to feel how they're reacting. Other times as well, which is very embarrassing, this has happened probably to everybody, every actor, but there's always a place where you get a big laugh, so you deliver your line, ba 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 ba, and for whatever reason that night you don't get a laugh, or it's a different audience, or they don't, for whatever reason, and then to keep carrying on and recover without looking like I don't know what words you're allowed to say at this time at night.
No, go ahead, say it all.
Well, you look like a fanny, don't you? If you sort of pause for a laugh and then nothing comes, and then that makes me want to laugh more than anything else in this world. So yeah, you need to just kind of make sure that you keep an ear open and you keep on top of your game.
Now, do people ask you to be Isa?
And they'll go, do the voice, like, oh, what was that film? Oh, that was a great wee film, do the voice, do the voice, do the voice. Oh, was it Shrek in that? That's right. So, yeah, they sometimes do, and sometimes I will do it, because it's easier just to do it, and other times I go, oh, no.
So what do you say? What have you got a line?
Well, they usually tell me what they want me to say, because it's their favourite line. So, and it's sometimes a line that I don't even remember that I've ever said. But anyway, they're convinced, and that's what they want me to say. So I don't mind.
Now, how did you initially get the part of Isa?
I met Greg in 1995. We did Panto together. I did the Tuna Fat radio shows. The boys wrote a kids thing called Hubbub. I did that. They wrote part of it. And there was just loads of connections all the time. We were doing Rab C, we were doing Baldy Man, we were doing all different jobs that our paths crossed. And when we were doing Pulp Video, I played a home help. And it was kind of like Jack and Victor. It wasn't quite specifically them yet, but it was going in that direction. It was two older men, and the home help would come in and be a yap and a gossip. So when they went on, they did Tune the Fat and Telly. I had my wee boy Ian, and I remember Julie came round, Greg's wife, and she said, "Oh, Jean, it's dead exciting. Wait till I tell you, the boys are writing a new thing called Still Game, and they want you to play the old woman in it." And I thought, "Oh, yeah, dancer." So that was it, and it kind of just carried on from there.
Do you have a favorite episode?
Do I have a favourite episode? I'm not sure I do. I remember I loved filming the one where they were playing poker. Because we were all in that wee room together, and we had such a good laugh that day. It was brilliant fun. I loved that one. Maybe to watch, one of my favourite episodes is when they're decorating my house. I love that episode because I love Laurel and Hardy, and it's it just reminds me of that when they're painting and the decorating and the turn around, you get conked on the head of the ladders, and then my whole house being turned upside down. So probably for me to watch, that's my favourite episode. But to film, it would have been the poker one.
See, and it was, for me, I almost had to buy a new laptop when I watched the episode with you and your, what I'm guessing is your favorite toy.
Oh, yes, that was outrageous. I know, because the one even with Robbie Coltrane, and I had to say things to him in the bus, and I said, "Boys, Isa wouldn't say that." I was shocked, and they said, "Isa would say it, and she is saying it." And I was like, "Oh no, I can't bear it for her." But yeah, and of course as well, yeah, with the dildo in the drawer. Oh
my God! It was...
And of course that dildo went mysteriously missing within 2 days of filming that. So somebody in the crew was off with it, but we never found out who.
Straight on eBay for 50 quid.
Oh yeah. Get a wee wipe, it's fine. Probably was never new. Probably was the person in props owned it and just took it back home. But no, I don't know. But yes, some of the things I had to do. It was outrageous.
Oh, and
they tried to get me to strip as well, because you were saying earlier, Mark and I are really close friends, and we have been for many years. And I had to jump on him naked, supposedly, in the New Year special when we all went back to being younger. And I'm like, I'm not jumping naked on cocks. So they got another girl to come and do and sort of be a stunt double. And I remember at lunchtime she went up for another pudding. And I went, "Oh no, wait a minute here." Now, everybody's going to think that you're me naked. Are you sure you want another pudding? If I give you a tenner, will you have a glass of water? No, that was it. Everybody kind of thought that it was me. But her bottom was far superior to mine, so hey-ho, I'll take that.
And joining us now as we continue on with our Still Game tribute. Is it a tribute? I don't know. What do we call this thing? Our Still Game show?
A reunion.
A reunion. There we go. Mark Cox is joining us. Of course, played Tam Mullen, the miserable bastard. I loved the character, by the way.
Thank you very much indeed. It's good to be on, good to speak.
Tam is one of my son's favourite characters. And
Yeah,
you had a theory about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think the Tam would be every young boy's favorite because he gets to learn how to get over on his friends.
That's right, exactly right. And then he can produce children when he's in his 70s, as it goes as well. You know, it's quite. I think the thing with Still Game, it's like in a court case, you know, the accused and the judge will both love Still Game. It's that kind of thing, you know. It's like there's no a class thing to it. Everybody seems to like it, which is obviously fantastic for us. And then proof in the pudding is when you put tickets on sale. There's none left in a few days, you know. I suppose it shows you.
Did you expect that to happen? Did you think it was going to be so big when the comeback?
I could, to be honest with you, I said this before. I couldn't see it being anything else. I couldn't, because without exaggeration, I'm not exaggerating. It ended in 2008. I get asked minimum twice a day. People shouting in the street, "How are you doing? When's it coming back? When is this? When is that?" It's non-stop. And then when they repeat it on the TV, like we're having at the moment, I mean, the viewing figures for the Still Game repeats are twice what new programmes are getting at the moment. You know, programmes that have been made. So it's just, I don't know what it is. It's phenomenal, crazy.
That is so awesome. I would as a fan of the show, of course, I'd love to see you guys, you know, go back into production and just do it. Continue it on for as long as you're getting the numbers, because you get a brand new audience every day, because people
what happens, right?
People that suddenly understand your humor when it's like from the age suddenly they're 4 and they're like, oh yeah, that's the funny guys, and 94. Yeah, you could get a brand new audience every day. You could go on doing this for the next 40 years and it would still be good.
And then you wouldn't need any makeup or anything.
Instead of going from you would go from 3.5 hours of makeup to about 10 minutes.
That's right, 10 minutes, a bit of powder. That would be it.
I tell you what really surprised me, actually. It was only recently that because I know that several of you are in makeup to look older, and some of the guys, like Paul Young, for instance, are genuinely older actors. I had no idea. I had no idea that Frances was a young actress. Wow.
Yeah, she's got a fantastic kind of older woman's face, wasn't she? And her hair and things like that. They're very good at that. The makeup department's excellent, you know. And like our wigs, I remember Jane McCarry now plays Isa. I mean, we were taken to London to have these hand-sewn silk wigs with real hair, you know, like £1,500 each.
Yeah.
But, you know, it looks the part, you know, it's, and it does, actually. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to wear as well for an actor. And you know, it's great fun. There's no doubt about it, you know. It's,
now, do you ever,
a fantastic job.
Do you ever get into arguments about how you feel the character should react and they got it written different and they want you to do something different, or do you pretty much already on the same page?
I think by this stage, you know, I think you know what to do, and people have to have trust, especially writers have to have trust in, you know, the actors that are doing it, especially kind of long-standing characters like this. You know, I know what to do. My reactions are generally correct, you know, my instinct. So it's been a riot. It really has. It's been a riotous life.
So is it easy for you to get straight back into character after all this time, or like the other guys, do you often get asked by fans to give a bit of time, and you end up doing them? Is he still there all the time?
Oh, absolutely. It's like riding a bike. It really is. It's you just don't forget it. You know, you just pull on those comfortable shoes, and that's you there. You know what I mean?
Now, you mentioned it as well that every day you get asked, when is this show coming back? Do people ask you if there's if the show isn't coming back, is there ever going to be a spin-off? You know, like for Tam or for Winston, or you know,
that's right. We used to laugh at that. That's right. There'll be something else. It's funny that, isn't it? I never even thought about that. I no doubt that could be a possibility.
Oh, I think it's an idea. Yeah, people would watch it. Of course they would. Even if it was just one of the characters, I think they would watch it. You know, like a Navid special or a Tam special.
The simplicity of the whole thing, that's what everybody loves. It's just this bunch of old folk, isn't it? going through their day. That's what it is, but it's something very special to people. So it's no rocket science. Great.
Everybody can relate to the characters. I think, as Nightmare says as well, even in other countries, we've all got a Tam, and everybody knows a Tam. Everybody knows a Navid.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
you know,
the favorite uncle or grandpa. Everyone can look at all the characters and go, yeah, I know that, or oh, I remember my dad's friend was like that, or
absolutely.
Grandpa's crazy buddy who was always trying to beg quarters off somebody, or whatever, the grifter friend that you always had to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and that was one of the things. Over here, especially, I don't know if the hype got that big over across the pond, but when Coming to America, the Eddie Murphy movie came out, the best part of that movie was the old dudes in the barbershop played by Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. And they literally got a movie deal, but it never went anywhere. But Variety had said, okay, these Murphy, Arsenio to do barbershop movie as the old guys, because that was the best part of the movie.
I could watch Eddie Murphy doing those old folk all day long.
Oh yeah,
playing grandma as well. He was playing grandma, and
that was the Nutty Professor, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nutty Professor. He played grandma.
He's fun. He's a funny man with that kind of stuff. I really like that kind of stuff. Excellent.
Now, what have you been doing? I know you've got a production company, haven't you?
I do my own. I do a panto every year. I've done a couple of pantos in Glasgow the last few years. I write and produce them, and I'm in them. It's been quite good. I've done a lot of theatre when I left drama college 20 years ago, and I've done a bit more telly probably since then. And doing my own stuff's a great thing. That's anybody that's done their own thing. It's a really, really good feeling. Writing and putting your own stuff on, and people coming to see it. It's very rewarding, I wrote a radio play for BBC, myself and Paul Riley, so I've had various fingers in many pies this year, so to speak. And, so
hope it's not Boaby's pies.
No,
Boaby's pies. Feeding in the middle, that's right. So it's been a big journey, lots going on, and Still Game for the last 10 years has been at the centre of that, and it's aided and helped me do other things, and that's the good fortune, isn't it? Or doing stuff like this, I guess.
Now, do you have some input to the scripts? I mean, if you've got an idea for Tam and say, here's a good idea if Tam does this or Tam does it, do you get some...
No, it generally doesn't work like that. They would write the scripts, and you would, and when they do write the scripts are pretty much ready to go. There's not really a lot to be done in them.
Right.
There's not really a lot to add into it because they're written well. The shows are written well. So that's a good thing as well. You're an actor. You're not getting in every morning going, oh no, I need to say, it's like the story of a pal of mine who was doing a radio show. Had read the radio script, went in and said to the person next to him, whispered to him, who wrote this pish? The guy said, I wrote it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like that when you go into Still Game. You go in and it's what you've got there is very, very good. It's not a lot of actors can go into their work in the morning and think, this is fantastic. You know what I mean? That's what it was like working on it. You know what I mean? Before you film scenes, you get the crew in and you go through the scene. So the crew, the camera, sound can see it. And it's always a riot. It's always a real laugh. People are fond about laughing at it, and that's not a thing that happens a lot in television either. People are genuinely, find it hilarious.
Sanjeev Kohli is now who played Navid, who's on the Skype with us right now. Sanjeev, how are you?
I'm good. I'm loving you saying Navid in an American accent. Navid. That's never been done before.
Am I getting it correctly? Because my ignorant American tongue doesn't do well with foreign words.
It makes me feel kind of like I'm in Earth, Wind and Fire, which I'd happily remember that band.
Well, I'm glad to have some leeway with my with my tripping tongue. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Now, how did you audition to get the part? Did you already know the guys? How did you become Navid?
Well, I used to write for a show called Chewing the Fat, which is a sort of the progenitor of Still Game, and so I knew Ford and Greg as friends and professionally, and they had approached me. Possibly, they wanted to write an Asian shopkeeper character, but Ford was going to play the shopkeeper, and they said, "Oh, do you think this is going to be a problem? Will this be perceived as racist?" And I said, "Well, no. If you do it authentically, and I'll help you do that, then no, around about that time, Matt Lucas from Little Britain had played an Asian shopkeeper, and he got it right. And I said, it's possible as long as you get it right, and I'll help you with that. And then that went away. That never happened. And then when Still Game came around, Greg said, talked about this Asian shopkeeper character again, and I said, oh yeah, I'll help you write that. And he said, no, do you want to play him? And at that point, I'd only done teeny bits of acting. I'm sort of a performer come lately. I was a comedy writer who'd done bits and pieces of, I call it just shouting in wigs. I wouldn't call it acting. And then Greg says to me, would you want to play this character? And I said, well, of course I'd love to, but I mean, I don't want to let you guys down. And he said, well, do an audition as much for your sake as for our sake. And he said, oh, by the way, we love it when you impersonate your dad. So I kind of took that on board, and I sort of did a South Glasgow version of my dad. Because my dad isn't from Glasgow. My dad's from India via London, and my dad speaks more like this, more Indian side. His dad would cheeky bugger. Whereas Navid, he's got the kind of, the mere Scottish quality, kind of torties kind of thing. So I kind of channeled my dad, but also imagined my dad coming from Gavin Hill, which is in the south side of Glasgow. Did the audition, got the job. So I mean, I don't know if they were considering anyone else for the part. Although I hear latterly that apparently Matthew McConaughey was in the last two. No, not really. I think I was the only one up for it, and I didn't make a mess of it, and I got the job.
Yeah, because there's a lot of West Texaners living up in Scotland running shops. I'm sure that's why Matthew McConaughey wasn't available for that.
Oh yeah, and he doesn't want to be typecast. As you know, he already plays as a cash and carry owner, a pharmacist. He's played at least 3 doctors. He's trying to get away from the whole Asian thing. And I happily stepped into the beach. I mop up all his sloppy seconds.
Oh man! Now, your wife in this series, did you guys, when they were writing her role, did they stylize her off of Wilson from Home Improvement on purpose? Or
that was certainly one of the references that was made. I mean, when I think of Mina, I think of that character. I think they probably had Norm's wife in Cheers more in mind. I mean, the thing about Norm's wife is you never saw her at all, apart from one episode. When they were having, I think, a Thanksgiving dinner, and the big reveal was Norm's wife's coming, and towards the end they have this food fight, and a pie goes flying, and then in steps Norm's wife stage right with a big massive pie on her face, and you didn't see her face, and I'm pretty sure that was the only time she had any screen time, and you didn't see her face. Whereas obviously with the Home Improvements guy, you saw him all the time, and they got very creative with the way that they hit his face. And I think they just saw that and thought, there's an opportunity for some extra comedy here. I mean, I particularly like it because I know there were times that we had to choreograph moves where I had to do this sort of pirouette with a box of crisps in order to obscure Mina's face. And it was, when I look back, it was like ballet. I feel very proud of that scene. Other times it will be a lollipop display. One time it's the head of a mop. One time she's reading a paper. So I think it's just an extra bit of physical comedy, but certainly Home Improvements was one of the references I think that they'd used.
Well, I think the way that you guys pulled it off was brilliant, and I love the fact that she was so snarky and so sarcastically mean, and your character just kind of bluffed it off or called her on it, and it always.
You know what? I mean, obviously it's comedy and it's a wonderful character, but on a sort of vaguely race political with a small r and a small p. In fact, make all those letters lowercase. It was a joy to play a character that had no sort of ethnic baggage. They could have easily written a guy who was trying to, set his daughter on fire for going out with a white guy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That stuff had all been done. This was just a guy who ran a shop, and he was the king of the hill, and he was sarcastic to his customers and treated them like rubbish. And all those things, none of those are sort of race specific. They're just fun character traits. So that was a real revelation, and I've got to thank Ford and Greg for doing that. They're very, very forward thinking in that way. I mean, possibly without realizing it, they wrote a very. Here's the thing, right? And this is the perfect example of when you have to write an ethnic character in any kind of drama, right? You write an Indian Asian character. At some point, a wedding has to be invoked. Otherwise, you think, no, it has to be, because then you think, well, that character's not real. But what they did was they waited till episode 6 in series 1 to even mention a wedding, and then you had the wedding episode. So what they're saying is he's not defined by driving a tan Mercedes and arranging a wedding, but it is part of his life. So they were very clever in the way that they did that. It was almost like a slow release thing. So I think it's very, very cleverly written, and a lot of the time, 10, 11-year-old boys really love the show, and Navid might be the only Asian they meet, and he's a fictional guy, and they love him. I mean, that, it speaks volumes for the skill, I think, of Ford and Greg in writing the character, and all that, and funny.
There was an episode in the series when it was on TV where Navid sort of took a shine to Isa.
Yes.
And I remember reading an article and I think an interview that you did before where one of the reasons you wanted the show to come back was to see, maybe how that would evolve, and would it go
totally.
So,
no,
yeah.
I've got all kinds of storylines in my head. I know exactly what I want to happen in that storyline. I probably said it in that article, but I imagined Navid and Isa having a dirty weekend and like doing B&Bs around Scotland, and then they end up in somewhere like Largs or Millport or Troon on a really, really filthy, horrible bank holiday. And it's peeing down with rain, and they're standing at the pier, and the waves are lashing them, and they both got ice creams, and he's got ice cream on his beard, and they're very, really sad, and he just turns to Isa and he says, "This has never gone anywhere. I need to get back to Mina. I pure love her." And I think that'd be an actual sort of heartrending scene. The other idea I had was imagining that some Ned had glued the shutters in the shop, and so they were locked in overnight in the shop, and they can't help themselves, and they have mad shop sex, frankly, and there's a monster munch dust all over the floor in the morning when the police manage to actually wrench the shutters back up. So I mean, I think there could be a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if the boys are going to pick up that storyline or not.
How many times a day do you get stopped and asked to be Navid?
Well, it's funny. What will happen is that well, first of all, I'd just like to say to anyone who's listening is that I don't mind when I'm approached, because people love the show and they love the character. And here's a strange thing. See, as an Asian growing up in Scotland, and I still do this, I still feel like I'm representing Asians everywhere. So I will hold open a door for someone, and I want them to think, oh, Asians are polite, aren't they? So I kind of feel like Navid represents, and me represent Asians. So I will be polite and nice to everyone. So that's just to put that out there. I don't mind when people approach me. And the fact is that I really, really dig the fact they like him. The fact is they like a 59 or whatever he is, 61-year-old Muslim shopkeeper. That's brilliant. And who am I to remain on that parade? There's all manner of reasons why I would want to perpetuate that, So I'm absolutely happy when people approach me, and it's quite funny though, because what they'll do is they'll get pictures and that, and they'll occasionally say, "Oh, gonna call my wife a lazy boot," and I'll say, "Aye, all right, if you think it'll help you get marriage." and that's always fun, someone thrusts a phone at you, "You lazy bastard," and that's a laugh. But it's what will stop now is the people saying, "When are you going to knock those boys' heads together? When's that going to happen?" Last time, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, taxi driver said that I'd been at a meeting at the BBC and we're coming back over the Squinty Bridge, and the taxi driver says, "Sorry to bother you, big man, but when are you going to knock those boys' heads together? I guess they still give back in the box." And as he turned the corner, the hydro just kind of materialised on the left, and I really wanted to say to him, "Well, if you wait a wee while, we might announce something," but I couldn't say anything to him at the time. I just went, "Who knows? Maybe one day. Maybe one day." So I mean, certainly, I'd say 2-3 times a day, people were saying when they're coming back, "Why are the boys not talking?" Less people have stopped asking me to be Navid, probably because they're quite good at it themselves. I mean, God, there was some we very frankly, 10-year-old boy did one of the best Navid impersonations I ever heard. Equally, I've heard the worst one. I heard a wee boy try to do it, and he came out as patois. He said something like, "Give me a toffee crisp and some chewing gum." I said, "No, Navid's not from Pink Kids. What are play that wee man.